Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'm Ruth Shelley, President of the Rotary Club of Portland. Welcome to our live weekly membership meeting. As we have said every week, Rotary opens opportunities to find solutions for today's challenges. Healing from the pandemic, recovery from the economic downturn, and peace building as we seek racial justice. This week, we focus on door number 2, recovery, as our speakers Alan Evans and Raven Russell inspire us with the story of the Bybee Lakes Hope Center. But first, let's welcome Rotarian Mark Favinci for our reflection. Mark?
Good afternoon. Today I'll offer a quote from Rick Steves, the travel guru. I took this directly from his website, his webpage with his travel philosophy. It not only applies to travel, but life in general, because life's a journey, right? And the pandemic has made this part of the journey a little bit more difficult. He says, be fanatically positive and militantly optimistic. If something's not to your liking, change your liking. Ruth?
That is a wonderful thought. Thank you, Mark.
Welcome.
And welcome to our guests. If there are any Rotarians who have invited a guest, please raise your hand and Maria will call on you to unmute and introduce them. Or if you're a visiting Rotarian who came on your own, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. Maria, do you see any guests today?
I'm not seeing anybody wave at me frantically, Ruth. So I think we are all here as members. If you are a guest though, like she said, just raise your hand or let us know in the chat. But back to you, Ruth.
Thank you. And now I'd like to extend a happy anniversary to everyone who joined Rotary Club of Portland in December. And there are quite a few of you. We alternate each week honoring birthdays and anniversaries. And I just have to do a special shout out to Skip Tweetmeyer, who is celebrating 47 years. That is amazing. If you have an opportunity to call or email Skip, please do so. We also want to note that past President Kate Ertman is celebrating 11 years. And so we run the gamut in terms of the veterans and the newcomers, and we love you all. Happy anniversary. And now, speaking of Kate, please welcome immediate past President Kate Ertman to make an announcement for Rotary leadership nominations. Kate?
Thank you so much, President Ruth. Pursuant to Article 1, Section 1 of Rotary Club of Portland bylaws, Kate Ertman, past president and nominating committee chair, and the nominating committee, Wes Harper, Corinda Torres, Scott Lofton, Curtis Shirey, and past president Danielle Banks, have nominated the following Rotarians for club officer positions for 2021-2022. The Rotarians nominated have been notified and have agreed to accept the nominations as follows. Reed Miller as president, Maria Schell as vice president, and Terry Goldman as president-elect nominee. Pursuant to the bylaws, I declare that nominations are open for any additional nominations. All nominees must have served 1 year on the club board before assuming office and have given consent to be nominated. Pardon me as my screen just flashes. Okay, here we go. If there are any nominations at this time, please raise your real hand or a virtual hand, or you can also just write the word nomination in the chat room and the chat window, and Maria will call on you. I'll give us just a few more moments. All right, and if you wish to make a nomination after this meeting, please send that in writing to Siobhan in the office no later than noon this Monday, December 14th. Nominations will be closed at that time. Currently, the election of club officers will be held on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 during the club's regular noon meeting. On behalf of the nominating committee, thank you for your support. And as I announced last week at this time, since you might have questions about the nomination process or questions on how you can become a leader in our club and in Rotary, I have 2 answers for you. You can go to our club's website, click on About Our Club, and you'll see the link to the leadership team page where you'll find more information. Or Tomorrow, Wednesday the 9th at 4:30 p.m., you can join me and past President, past District Governor Danielle Banks as we facilitate a How to Become a Leader in Rotary information meeting. Contact Siobhan or me or Danielle for a link to attend that Zoom meeting. And also, please bring a holiday beverage of your choice. Back to you, President Ruth.
Thank you, Kate. That's the best part, is the holiday beverage. And now, thinking of the holidays, please welcome Rotarian Mike O'Brien to tell you about this year's bell ringing. Mike?
It's the most wonderful time of the year, with Rotarians jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year. This is Captain Mike O'Brien. Super thankful for another year. We get to ring together, but not actually physically together, but we do get the opportunity to ring virtually this year. And so if you didn't get the Spokes newsletter where the link is included there, I've been told that the link will also show up in the chat box down below. And from that link, you're able to not only give what you want to give to the Salvation Army this year through the kettles, but I also know that there are a lot of us here who also reach out to friends and family to be able to support the Salvation Army. And that same link you can share with friends and family. Shoot, even share it with someone who you don't like so that they can also help out with the Salvation Army this Christmas season. And just thank you so much for all the years of generous support, and looking forward to getting to do this again together, just a little bit differently, which is all good. So thank you all so very much. Keep a lookout for that link and share it with a friend.
Thank you very much, Captain Mike, for that musical interlude, and please, everyone, be generous. And now, please welcome President-elect Reed Miller to present a few Paul Harris Fellowships. Reed?
Thank you, President Ruth. And good afternoon to all of you Rotarians and guests with us today. Today we will be honoring the milestone of 3 Paul Harris Fellows. As you know, the first Paul Harris certificate requires a contribution of $1,000, and each additional Paul Harris award is $1,000 each. Gifts from these individuals contribute to the humanitarian and educational programs of the Rotary Foundation, providing educational opportunities, food, potable water, healthcare, immunizations, and shelter for millions of people. Today's Paul Harris Fellows include Nihad Awida, Will Nolan, and Grant Thurston. Thank you all very much for your generosity to the Rotary Foundation. And I'll pass it back to you, President Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you, Reed. I just had a momentary dog emergency, and I apologize. But now we welcome and highlight one of our committees. Please welcome Rotarian Tim Porter to tell you about December's Committee of the Month, Community Grants.
Excellent. Thank you, President Ruth. Good afternoon, everyone. And as like Ruth said, my name is Tim Porter, and I'm the chair of the Community Grants Committee this year. I took over the chair after being vice chair as part of the U40 program last year. As many of you likely know, our committee extends grants for capital expenditures, generally ranging from $2,000 to $8,000, to Portland metro area nonprofit organizations that support and focus on improving the quality of life of disadvantaged and underserved youth. I've really enjoyed my time with the committee, visiting various organizations, and really seeing the impact this committee has on our community. Today, I would like to highlight one of the grants that we funded this past year, which went to a youth treatment center. Through this grant process, I came to learn something surprising to me, and that is that Oregon ranks 5th in the US state rankings for teen drug abuse, yet 48th in the country for treatment access. The organization that was funded this grant, the Paul Treatment Center, has since 1985 provided teens living in the Portland metro area comprehensive treatment services, including those who have substance abuse disorder, with oftentimes having a co-occurring mental health needs. These teens stay anywhere between 30 and 60 days in their program, and generally referred through the school system, juvenile justice system, and other behavioral health providers. Critical to their ability to build and practice skills in real life settings is the ability to transport youth, And to that end, the grant that we funded went to replace a very heavily utilized and very worn down van that is used to transport youth and their programs to recovery-oriented activities and medical appointments, among other activities. With the grant that our committee funded, they were able to replace the worn out van with a much newer, safer van to transport the youth to their programs. In addition to telling you a little bit about one of the grants that we funded this last year, I also wanted to encourage you to get involved. And that we meet the second Tuesday of every month at these times, as you know, via Zoom at 11 a.m. Please reach out to me or another committee member if you would like to get involved. And thanks.
Thank you, Tim. And now, one of my favorite parts of the meeting, we're going to disappear and enter a virtual table talk. Please introduce yourselves to others in the group. A meeting or so before you come back to this main meeting, you'll get a visual heads up. And may I suggest a topic for your discussion? With the theme of hope being central to the Bybee Lakes Hope Center, what is your greatest hope for 2021? Here we go. I hope you enjoyed your breakout rooms. Our conversation was great, but now on to our program. After our speaker today is finished, if you'd like to ask Alan or Raven a question, Maria will moderate the Q&A through the chat box. And now, please welcome past president and past district governor, Rotarian Danielle Banks, as today's chair of the day. Danielle?
Something is not to your liking, change your liking. I love that quote from Rick Steves. And thank you for sharing it today, because we know, and the community knows, that it hasn't been to our liking to have the Wapato jail facility sitting there empty for so long. And thankfully, our speakers today have come along with a solution that not only helps the homeless crisis, but uses a facility that deserves to be used in a really positive way. Alan Evans has been with us before, the founder, CEO, and exec director of Helping Hands Reentry Outreach Centers. You may not know, but there are 11 centers throughout Oregon, and I think that Alan intends to keep them growing. Raven is the new data director and major projects director for Helping Hands Reentry Outreach Centers and working with the Bybee Lakes Hope Center. I wanted to go back and tell you something about Alan that you may have forgotten. He was really stuck in a cycle of homeless for about 25 years. He wanted food stamps, but needed ID. He wanted ID, but needed a residence. He wanted a residence, but didn't have any money. So he went to every door that he could think of asking and kept getting turned away. The resources simply weren't there to help a person in the position that he was in. Probably not unlike some of the folks that are going to be housed and have a new lease on life at the Bybee Lakes Hope Center. The one place that Alan knew where he could go for 3 meals a day and a roof over his head, a shower, was jail. That shouldn't be the solution for people who are homeless on our streets. Well, we know that Alan is this incredible success story, and we know something about Raven and Alan in that they're like us. They're both Rotarians. Both of them are past presidents of the Seaside Club, and both of them have served on a number of boards. Alan's even been past president of the Sunset Empire Parks and Recreation Board and the Seaside Chamber of Commerce. And there are notables on the Helping Hands Reentry Outreach Center's board of directors. Raven has spent her time not only as a past president, but has been active in district leadership. She's currently in the West Lynn Club. And One of her favorite boards is the Wildlife Center of the North Coast. Well, I could go on and on about these two folks that I feel like I can call friends. Certainly Raven and I serve on a district committee together, which is a real pleasure. But we want to hear about how that jail facility that never got used is now a hope center, a trauma-informed, data-driven transitional housing facility. It's because of Helping Hands and because that we have Rotarians like Alan Evans and Raven Russell who put in action a way to make change to their liking and to help change be to our liking in our community. It's my great pleasure to introduce Alan Evans and Raven Russell from Helping Hands Reentry Outreach Centers.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that warm welcome, Danielle. You are certainly one of our friends. I'm really happy to call you that. Alan and I have a quick little video that we want to show everybody to kick us off. So I'm going to share my screen and start that. I'm not sure I checked the box for sound. Here we go.
I fell into the abyss of hell quickly, praying for death.
I was a raging alcoholic for the majority of my life. Things spiraled out of control and I ended up losing my 2 boys.
The more that we can help people change their life from the toughest places that they come from, where they hurt the most, why they hide, then we can give them a true foundation to change their life.
I don't know how they saw it or what they saw, but they believed in me.
Longer-term homeless reentry doesn't exist. When I started the organization, I knew that that was the missing link. And I was homeless from the age of 13 years old. And I was an abused kid. I lived through trauma, and every place I'd go, they would tell me that they could offer me just one thing out of everything I needed. What makes us different is you walk in the door and receive the services you need and the opportunity to change your life under one roof in one location. The organization internally is ran by people with lived experience.
There are people there to help you process your day in the real world. How was your day? How'd you feel? What can we do different?
They really genuinely try to get to know you and what will work for you to succeed.
We make all decisions for every single person we want to assist based off of the data we collect from them when they come through the door. 1, we can see what people need to do to change, and 2, we can provide the best service that we possibly can. And then we can really truly gather depth and information to make good business decisions for our organization to provide the best service possible to serve a person.
There's a credibility there that resonated with me and others. I think they're taking the best of street smarts and the high-tech world we're in and combining those so they can tailor different kinds of approaches and treatments that are science and fact-based. The 88% success rate. That means one more life that doesn't want to be on the street has a chance to become a fulfilled human being again.
My main hope is to provide a consistent home for my children. It reminds me that miracles are possible.
If you were to build the perfect building for our program, that would be it. Medical facilities, vocational training, education, all of the room to bring all of the services in one location. We have a system in place, a data-driven, trauma-informed, best practice model for homeless reentry that is going not only to work here, but allow us to expand that model. Every person coming through our door wasn't born homeless. They had opportunities, and somewhere along the line, they've lost that. To watch somebody transform, it all starts out with loving people until they love themselves.
Alan, do you want to take her away?
I do. I always get chills when I see that. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Alan Evans, and I'm the CEO and founder of Helping Hands Reentry Outreach Centers. A little bit of my story there is I was homeless from the years of for 27 years, from 13 years old on. I lived through some extreme abuse, sexual abuse as a child, really dramatic, in and out of the hospital until I was 11 years old. And then my father hung me in the backyard of a house, and I was found by a neighbor, and I was put into the foster care system in California. And I spent most of my life from that point on being a pretty angry, frustrated, self-medicated kid. And my life just continued to spiral out of control for several years. I'm going to fast forward through all of the tough stories because we're limited on time, but I ended up homeless in Oregon just about 20 years ago. I lived under Burnside Bridge for about 4 years. Excuse me, 4 months. I nearly froze to death in Portland, and the best gift I got while I was here was a brown tarp. Something to keep me at least dry so my clothes didn't get soaking wet every single day. I ended up in Seaside, Oregon, where about 4 months later, after being here in Portland, and I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was huddled up in some bushes, and I walked to every door I could find in Astoria and said, look, I'm broke, I'm homeless, I'm addicted, help me. Daniil talked about I needed food stamps. They told me I needed identification. I wanted identification. They told me I needed a residence, and I wanted a residence, but I had no money. And I realized at that time that crime was a win-win situation, that I could commit a crime, and if I got away with it, I can continue living the lifestyle I was living. But if I got arrested, I get 3 meals and a bed in jail. And I realized at that time that in the state of Oregon, getting arrested became getting rescued for lots of people. And if you look at our streets today, started a small organization after that. I got some assistance from a police officer, started a small home for men in Seaside, Oregon, called Thugs Off Drugs. Was the organization I started 19 years ago. That's with Z's, in case you didn't know. And we kind of hit the ground running. I found out a couple things along the way, and I ran that organization for about 9.5 years, that if you're an ex-convict and an ex-homeless guy and you have an organization called Thugs Off Drugs, people do not trust you with their money. And that was, by the way, I see some of you laughing, that was kind of a joke, but there was some truth to it. And then about 10 years ago, we noticed that the face of homelessness started to change. The market crashed. And it wasn't just the addicted people and the broken people on the streets like when I was there. More senior citizens were showing up at our doors, and more mothers with children were showing up at our doors. People were having a hard time making it, and they didn't feel like they qualified to be in a program called Thugs Off Drugs. So we realized that we had to change our name. That's what we did. We started out new. We created a new database. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch more. I'm going to let you know how we got to this. Our organization expanded into multiple counties. We were housing a lot of people in a lot of communities. And just over a year ago, I got a call from Senator Johnson, who said, hey, Alan, this guy in Portland is going to tear down this building. Would you be interested in the kitchen equipment? And I said, absolutely. Let's go check it out. So I threw my daughter in the car. I didn't say anything to Raven or any of my other staff. I just decided I'm going to come check this kitchen. Now, it's about a $10 million kitchen in this building, but I drove past about 400 homeless people to get to the doors of a 155,000 square foot building. and wondering if why there's a place like this that can house so many people, and a problem out there. What was the problem with this building? Figuring it out. So I came through and I decided it's none of my business. They had a 25-foot long dishwasher in this kitchen. So the equipment in this kitchen was a little bit bigger than any of our facilities could use. And I called Betsy and said, I don't think that it's going to work for us. And so I went back, I told Raven and the rest of my staff about this building I seen. I couldn't understand. I was trying to get it out of my head. Decided it was none of our business. We're going to continue serving the counties we're serving. And a couple months go by, and Jordan Schnitzer and Betsy Johnson were celebrity judges at a place that Raven and I were telling our story and raising money for some other nonprofits. Iron Chef Goes Coastal was this little thing. And so Betsy said, hey, came over and would you like to meet this Jordan Schnitzer guy? And I said, well, yeah, he's a millionaire and I like to raise money. So yeah, let me shake this guy's hand. So I went over to him and I reached my hand out, I shook his hand. And he said, hey, why don't you tell me your story? And I sat down with him for about 15 minutes and told him a little bit of my story. And he said, hey, if I gave you this building and $1 million, do you think you can make it work? And I said, I think so. We met with him the next day. I went back over to Raven and the rest of my staff. I said, listen, I know that we're already working our tails off in so many other locations, but I think that we can do this. And the rest is history. We came out here, we realized that there was a bunch of obstacles to overcome. One of them was zoning. One of them was transportation. The biggest thing we had to overcome was the stigma of this building and the cost that it accumulated taxpayers and all of these. I mean, there was this huge dark cloud over this thing. And, you know, that word right there, hope, is something that we concentrated on the whole time. And we believed bigger than ourselves. And we believed that we could overcome every one of those obstacles. Well, we did. We opened the doors just about 2 months ago. We've got cool protocols in place. We've got 130 beds in this facility right now. We're still doing a large build out on the rest of it. I'm gonna let Raven share some of the other stuff, but we're a group of believers that believe that everybody deserves the chance to change their life. And we deserve if we can give them the proper programming and the proper opportunity. And then we can train communities on trauma-informed care. And we believe that everybody's worth that time and that effort. And so I've been grateful to be on both sides of this thing, living on the streets over here, plus welcoming people to come through the door. And I'll tell you, when we first started this project, I would always tell people when they came out to the facility, one day you're going to see kids running down the hallway here. And about a month ago, we had a woman come in with an autistic child. We were serving hot dogs that day. And I came around the corner and here's this little autistic kid barefoot running down the hallway, holding a hot dog. And I realized that's why we do what we do today. Not everybody deserves the chance or deserves to be pushed into survival in our communities. And so that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Raven, the rest is yours.
So as Alan said, we opened almost 2 months ago and we have 126 beds for men, women, and children right now, which we're so blessed to be able to provide that amount of housing. It's something that's so needed in our community right now. And it's going really well. The COVID protocols have been ever changing through the state, but we're working really hard to keep everybody safe. We've been really fortunate not to have any positive cases at all in any of our facilities statewide. I personally credit that to our staff who are working so hard to keep everybody safe and keep everything sterile and clean. So it's been really great housing people there. One of the aspects of our program is that we are referral only. So people have to come in with a referral from a local community agency. So we have trained 36 agencies to refer into Bybee Lakes Hope Center. Those agencies, I'm not going to list them all because I would fail at trying to remember all of them off the top of my head, but the Portland Police Bureau and Portland Fire and Rescue and the Portland Public Schools District and Portland Street Response and Mental Health and Addictions Association of Oregon and Dual Diagnosis of Oregon and many other people that are across the spectrum and serving people and in contact with people that are experiencing homelessness. So 36 agencies, which is over 200 individuals who are trained to refer into the Hope Center, which has been absolutely incredible. People are being screened and brought in that are really ready for change. Our program offers two main components. So first is a short-term emergency shelter. People can come in and spend a few days getting to know us, meet our staff, and really start to build trust that we are a safe place where they can heal, that there's not going to be a bunch of drug use, so there's not going to be violence, so there's not going to be, people doing shady stuff in the dorms. That trust is really hard to earn, and we are up for the challenge. So people spend a few days in emergency shelter getting to know us and learning about our long-term program. Our long-term program is called the Reentry Program. We take a trauma-informed approach. It's something that we've developed over almost 2 decades of providing services for the homeless. We assign everybody a case manager and they get an individual reentry plan. It's a process that we modeled after the IEP process in public schools, which is the individual education plan process. I'm seeing some nodding, so I think people mostly know what that is, but essentially we want to get all of the key players to the table and break down barriers and communicate about what the individual needs, what steps they need to take to be able to be self-sufficient again. One major question that we get about our reentry program is how long do people stay? Each program is completely tailored to the individual. So it's between the case manager and the individual to decide when they're ready to leave our program and to move out into permanent housing. But they typically need to get a job and pay off any debts that they have in their name and save up first, last, and deposit to be able to get into an apartment. And so that's going to take several months at least, usually for folks. It's usually 9 to 12 months, but we do not cap it. So if somebody needs 14 months to gain self-sufficiency, if they need 15 months, then they can have that. The longest anybody's ever stayed in one of our programs is about 18 months. And that was, somebody that had a lot of difficulties. And if they leave sooner than that, then they're leaving before they're ready. And they're just going to end up back at our door in 6 months. And that's not good for them. And it's not good for us. And so we would rather give them that a little bit of additional time. One of the main questions that we get is how can people help? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions and we're happy to answer any of them that you have. We'll give a little bit of extra time because there are always a lot of questions, but there are a lot of volunteer opportunities right now. Volunteers are coming in. You just have to have a food handler's card to cook dinners in our food truck. We have this big, beautiful kitchen, but it's on the side of the building that's still under renovation. And so right now we're serving dinners for our folks that out of a food truck. So if you feel like cooking for some vulnerable people and serving it out the window, we followed some really strict COVID protocols to keep everybody safe, but our volunteer coordinator would be happy to connect you. There's also always opportunities for skill building classes that are on site. We can have people Zoom in to the classrooms there, so no contact necessary. You can stay home. But if you feel like teaching how to write a resume or doing some mock interviews or communication skills or financial wellness or anything like that, there's always opportunity. So we welcome that. We've had
We'll take bags of money. In case you guys were wondering, we take bags of money too.
We do. Thanks, Alan. We are a nonprofit. So if you're looking to make an end of year contribution, then let us know. A couple exciting projects that we just heard word on that I'm really excited to announce. We were just notified that we received a $96,000 grant from the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs to put in a community garden and a greenhouse on site in collaboration with a nonprofit that's local called Vet Rest, who serve veterans here. So we'll be putting in a victory garden and greenhouse. We're really excited about that. We also just received a donation of a $100,000 piece of playground equipment. This thing is huge and beautiful. It's a train and a train station and climbing boulders. It's all Wild West and adorable. I cannot wait. It'll be installed in February. So we're really excited to have a really fun place for kiddos out there. My Rotary Club, the Westland Club, is going to be putting in a peace pole in that playground space as well. So we will have a dedicated Rotary peace pole. Really excited about that. But yeah, so there's some really great projects that are going on, still ongoing. Renovation is still ongoing in about 2/3 of the building. We're only operating 57,000 square feet of the 155,000 that the total building is. The other side has a medical bay and classrooms and a big kitchen and 3 more dorms that will open for more reentry program beds to allow more bed space for people that are really working on getting their stuff together. So Alan, did I miss anything major that we want to highlight before we kick it over to questions?
Did we talk about bags of money? I'm just joking with everybody. Hey, listen, you know, it's an honor for us, for one, to be Rotarians. You know, Rotary changed my life. In the middle of having this organization, I watched a video with Mike Caruso at a district conference one morning, and it was about Rotarians getting together to solve problems when it comes to polio and handing out vaccines. And I realized that morning that that's the kind of person I wanted to be. So Rotary molds our lives to be better people and to serve, sometimes in most cases bigger than ourselves. That's what drives our team in this organization, is to be better people, to serve unconditionally. And that's why we believe in hope and we believe that this is worthwhile. We would always be grateful to give anybody a tour and show them what we do, show them the transparency in our organization. And we're always looking for community support. We're looking as community how we can get together and be a team to help solve problems in a community. And we'd be grateful to give you guys the opportunity to do that. So thanks.
Well, thank you to you both. I'm going to lead us in a Q&A. You have already a long queue, so we're going to get right to it. And I'm going to start with our first question is from Rotarian Bill Diaz. Bill?
Thank you, Maria. Alan, I don't know if you remember, but you and I go back to Thugs Off Drugs.
That's right.
2004, 2006, I was working in Oregon Partnership as communications director. We were trying to get kids to not use drugs and
Yep.
get off drugs if they were using them. And you were wonderful then, and you're wonderful now. And I just want to say to you, you got this great facility. There's acreage out there as well, isn't there? Isn't there
There
some
is.
spare acreage out there?
Yep.
16 acres.
That's what I see. Before we had the Homelessness Solutions Committee here at Rotary, we had a year-long study of ways that we could deal with the homeless crisis. And Wapato came up all the time and all of these reasons why it couldn't be done. And then you stepped in and Jordan Snitzer stepped in and you showed us that it could be done. And my thought of Wapato way back then, this is a couple of years ago, was you've got acreage out there too. So you could actually build some permanent housing out there if you needed to.
We're putting in 3 apartment complexes. And I must say, Bill, you look much younger than you did the last time I seen you.
That's because I don't do anything.
Yeah, we've got some plans. We've got plans drawn up for 3 apartment complexes in the back for transitioning, and a partial tiny home transition place too, because we're going to manufacture 3 styles of tiny home out of this facility for vocational training. So you'll love it.
Yeah. Well, you got me. You had me at hope, and consider me one of your hidden resources. So if you ever need a hidden resource to tap into, please tap into me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Our next question comes from Rotarian Mike Pendergast. Mike?
Thank you, Maria. My question is on a couple of things that I had heard before this ever became an option. One of which is, what's your perspective on what I hear in the county-run housing projects where they allow people to sell drugs and do drugs in the projects? What's your perspective on that versus here? And then if I understand that correctly. The other thing is, I've heard that there's been a resistance to this kind of program because the county or the city has always felt that you need to have the homeless in the city. So what's your perspective on that as well?
So I'm going to give you both of them. Homelessness is an industry. Homelessness is a business. The more visible homelessness we see in communities, the more money communities get for relief from the problems. That's the deeper issue there. Accountability changed my life. What the county decides to do and the reasons why they do it, why they want to bring some sort of housing or some sort of shelter to a person exactly where they're at. And you cannot put sick people into well housing. You just can't do that. You can't continue to provide services for people to stay exactly where they are. So I'm not a believer in allowing people to act and behave in an unhealthy way and live in any of our facilities. Just doesn't work. We can never set ourselves up for success or move in a direction of success if we allow failure to get us on the front end of anything. So while we have low barrier opportunities, listen, you can come to us and you could have used the day before, but you have 4 days to make a decision to be clean and sober. And in those 4 days, if you don't decide, what we offer and what you need are not the same thing. We are spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year trying to solve a problem without truly solving a problem. So we're shaking that cage a little bit and saying that we're picking our lane. This is the reason why we're doing it. And I'll tell you, successful people are thanking us for that down the road because it changed their life.
Thank you, Alan. Our next question comes from Rotarian Chris Achterman. Chris? You're going to want to unmute yourself, Chris.
I guess mine is kind of an extension of the, Wapato is an interesting location in the sense that it's physically isolated. And I know you're working out some transportation options. And I just like to have you kind of run through how you think those are going to work short-term and long-term.
Well, they're already working. Remoteness. Listen, we've had an organization in Tillamook County that's 9 miles out of town. Everybody had all these worries. We've been full since the day we've opened. Location is nothing. It isn't. If you would have told me, you need to stay under this bridge or you need to be in town here by a library or whatever crap that everybody was saying, it's a crock. And I'll tell you something. We have 250 job openings within a block from this facility. We just partnered with Columbia Sportswear, who are hiring people from our facility at $18 an hour with full bennies at the door. Location there. The number 11 bus line has been moved out to be available within a block from our facility, and TriMet just donated a 40-foot bus to our organization, and we're working with some people to help us overcome that obstacle as well. We need to learn to be happy on the inside, not what we believe is on the outside. And this facility is going to have everything people need to change their life. We haven't seen that it's a problem. We've seen that it's a perception problem. People think they know what's best for people and have never lived on the streets. I'll tell you something. If somebody said, hey, listen, I'm going to give you a warm place to stay and an opportunity, but it's 9 miles down the street, I would have jumped all over that opportunity, right? Because it's about the people we're serving, not the perception of the people that believe that it won't work.
I think the other thing I just want to add is that our participants out there have told me they really enjoy the location. It's out in the wetlands area, so it's really beautiful. There's a lot of nature. It's very healing and peaceful for people out there. And so the remoteness is actually great for them, especially those that are in recovery that can't now just go to the street corner to get whatever they were dependent on before.
Thank you, Raven. Our next question comes from Rotarian Tara Henderson. Tara?
Thank you, Maria. I have kind of a twofold, maybe 2.5 question. One is, how many guests are there now? And secondarily, what's the criteria for being able to enter your program, or more importantly, what criteria would exclude individuals from the program?
Alan, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. There's a couple different ways to look at this. One is we have to be, our response to COVID right now, why we have a certain amount of bed spaces, how we handle intakes at this facility. We've had over 70 people get referred to us in the last 2 months. Our bed spaces we're keeping extremely low to add social distancing and then still meet all the OSHA guidelines to keep everything clean. We've been very fortunate. We haven't had one case of COVID in any of our facilities. So we like to sit about 30% comfortably if we can sit about 30% of our bed space, but we try not to turn people away if they get sent to us. So we range. Sometimes we move people back out into some resources in our community within 5 to 10 days if we can help that for some smaller houses. And so the criteria is you cannot be a sex offender and be at our facility. We serve families, we serve women that are victims of domestic violence. We have men who are victims of domestic violence. And we serve a lot of different populations. So you gotta be clean and sober, or be willing to be clean and sober to be in our facilities. And you have to be referred by somebody else. You have to not break the law and live in our facilities. And you have to be willing to program. Those are the criteria. Everybody can come to our door without a penny in their pocket, and we're going to offer them all of these services. Our goal is to get them on their feet. They pay a fee for their bed space, about $250 a month once they get on their feet. But it's pretty simple.
Thank you so much, Alan. I'm going to go with the last question quickly with John White. And I know we had some others in the chat, so I will ask if you could write your questions in the chat. We'll share them with Alan and Raven offline. But John, you'll be our last question.
Well, thank you. And Alan, John White, I really appreciate your presentation and what you've done for this community. I'm very proud of you, and I hope that we as Rotary can help you more with what you're doing. I'm just curious, in your previous life, you were down in sunny California. Why did you pick cold and wet Oregon as a place to come to?
Well, I ran from the law to most states, and you guys don't extradite. No, I'll tell you, I started out in Victorville, California. I ended up all the way to Pensacola, Florida, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Las Vegas, Reno, Seattle, and I just kind of ended up here. I mean, the trees were beautiful. There's a beach over here. The river's nice. I was homeless in the high desert for a while. I'll tell you, it's hard to be homeless in 120-degree weather. But it seems that I was hoping for resources, and I was running from myself to get everywhere. And I just happened to end up in Oregon.
Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Raven. And thank you all for the great questions. I wish we had time for more. Next week.
We have to leave because we have another meeting right now, but thank you guys so much for having us. What a blessing.
Thank you, Alan, Raven. Godspeed.
Feel free to email us if you have questions. Danielle has my email address and my cell phone number. So Danielle, you can give that away as needed.
Thank you again.
Bye, guys.
We so appreciated your presence. And again, thank you all for the great questions. Next week will be our holiday program. We'll enjoy a few surprises as we have extended time to socialize with each other in extended breakout sessions. So please don your holiday garb, at least from the waist up, and join us. This meeting will once again be live via Zoom at noon on Tuesday. Today, I want to thank our virtual guests. So glad you joined us. Mark, thank you for your reflection. It was certainly to my liking. And past President Kate, thank you for facilitating the process of club leadership nominations. Nihad, Will, and Grant, congratulations on your Paul Harris Fellowships, and thank you for your generosity. Captain Mike, we appreciate you launching our Red Kettle Drive. And Danielle, thank you for your introduction of our speakers. I'm sorry that Ellen and Raven had to leave, but what an inspiring message about the Bybee Lakes Hope Center. Before we close, I also want to congratulate our own Al Jubitz as the first ever recipient of the Legacy of Peace Award from the Rotary Action Group for Peace, bestowed this past Saturday on a Zoom event with 79 participants from all over the world and several of our own Rotarians in attendance. Congratulations again, Al. What a well-deserved honor.
Thank you, Ruth, and for your part of the event.
Well,
Thank you for that.
My pleasure, and gosh, it was with a Hawaiian theme, and we all felt warm and sunny as a consequence. Now, as we enter into a new Rotary week, please join me in opening the doors of opportunity for healing, for recovery, and peace building. As Rotarians, we are here to make our world healthier, more sustainable, and with justice for all. I certainly hope I see you all next week at the holiday party. And until then, this meeting is adjourned.